Hello friends, and today I'm going to read Captain Underpants and the Wrath of the Wicked Wedgie Woman by Dave Pilkey. This is the 5th book in the series. Also, update on my Dave Pilkey collection. I've pre-ordered Dogman Big Jim Believes. So, yeah. Anyways, let's get started with the book. Hey everybody, before you read the story, there's some stuff you need to know. Read this comic book to fill yourself in on the story so far, but remember, this info is top secret, so don't let it fall into the wrong hands. The Trouble with Captain Underpants. Now it can be told. An informational comic by George and Harold. Once upon a time, there were two cool kids named George and Harold. We kick butt. Me too. But they had a mean principal named Mr. Krupp. Come over here, bubs. No way. One time, George and Harold hypnotized Mr. Krupp with the 3D hypno ring. Trademark. You will obey our every command. Okay, Zap. George and Harold made him think he was a great superhero named Captain Underpants. Look, I'm Captain Underpants. Ha ha ha. It was funny at first, but then Mr. Krupp jumped out the window. Hey, where do you think you are going? To fight crime, okay? George and Harold had to chase after him so he wouldn't get killed and hurt. Come over here, bub. No way. They had many adventures with lots of inappropriate humor. Diapers and toilets and poop, oh my. Dr. Diaper, Talking Toilets, Turbo Toilet 2000, Deliciously Dangerous Dandelion of Doom, Space Alien, Professor Poopy Pants. And then one day, Mr. Krupp accidentally ate superpower juice. Glub glub. Now he's got lots of powers. He can fly too. Tra-la-la. Two things you have to be careful about is water and finger snaps. For if you snap your fingers by Mr. Krupp, he turns into Captain Underpants, and if you pour water on Captain Underpants' head, he turns back into Mr. Krupp. Blah blah blah. H2O. So if you see Mr. Krupp, don't snap your fingers or you'll be sorry. Mr. Krupp plus finger snap equals Captain Underpants. And if you see Captain Underpants, don't pour no water on his head or you will be sorrier. Captain Underpants plus H2O equals Mr. Krupp. Remember, this is top secret, so don't tell anybody. Treehouse Comics. Chapter 1, George and Harold. This is George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George is a kid on the left with the tie and the flat top. Harold is the one on the right with the t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now. At most schools, teachers try to emphasize the 3 R's: reading, writing, and rhythmic. But George and Harold's teacher, Miss Ribble, was more concerned with enforcing what she called the 3 S's. Sit down, shut your pie holes, and stop driving me crazy. While this was bad for all of her students, it was especially bad for George and Harold, because they were very imaginative boys. You see, imagination was not really encouraged at George and Harold's school. In fact, it was discouraged. Imagination would only get you one-way ticket to the principal's office. This was sad for George and Harold because they didn't get straight A's, they weren't sports stars, and they could barely walk down the hallway without getting into trouble. See what I mean? This is what it what it was before. People, please wear your gym socks on the gym floor. And now it's please go pee-pee on your socks for warmth. See what I mean? But George and Harold had one thing that most of the other folks at Jerome Hortwood's elementary school didn't have: imagination. They were full of it. And one day they would use that imagination to save the entire human race from being overthrown by a crazed woman with even crazier superpowers. But before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Chapter 2, Miss Ribble's Big News. One fine day, George and Harold's homeroom teacher, Miss Ribble, entered the classroom looking a bit meaner than usual. "All right, settle down," shouted Miss Ribble. "I have some bad news. I'm retiring." "Hooray!" cried the children. "Not today," snapped Miss Ribble. "At the end of the school year." "Aw, man," moaned the children. "But the staff is throwing a retirement party for me today," said Miss Ribble. "Hooray!" "During recess," said Miss Ribble. "Aw, man," the children. "There will be lots of free ice cream," said Miss Ribble. "Hooray!" cried the children. "My favorite flavor, chunky tofu," said Miss Ribble. "Aw, man." "But first," said Miss Ribble, "it's time for something fun." "Hooray!" cried the children. "You all get to make happy retirement cards for me," said Miss Ribble. "Aw, man," moaned the children. Chapter 3, When You Care Enough to Send the Very Best. Miss Ribble went around the classroom handing out envelopes, sheets of construction paper, and butterfly stencils to all of the children. Then she wrote a poem on the chalkboard. "All right, take out your crayons," said Miss Ribble harshly. "I want you to use stencils to make a yellow butterfly on the front of your cards. When you're done, copy this poem on the inside. Roses are red, violets are blue, we are retiring and we'll miss you. Signed, your name here." "Can we make up our own poems?" asked Melvin neatly. "No," snapped Miss Ribble. "Do we have to use stencils?" asked Aunt Mancini. "Yes," yelled Miss Ribble. "Can we make our butterflies purple?" asked Stephanie Yarkoff. "No," screamed Miss Ribble. "Butterflies are yellow. Everyone knows that." While the rest of the class worked on their cards, George and Harold had a better idea. "Let's make Miss Ribble a comic book instead," said George. "Yeah," said Harold. "We can make it all about her. It'll be cool." So that's just what they did. Chapter 4, Captain Underpants and the Rat of the Wicked Wedgie Woman, by George Harold and Harold Hutchins. Captain Underpants and the Rat of the Wicked Wedgie Woman. Story by George Harold. Pictures by Harold Hutchins. Once upon a time there was a really mean teacher named Miss Ribble who was really, really mean. Grr, I am evil. She gave us homework and lots of homework and yelled at us all the time. Read 250 pages for the test. Aw, man. One time at Christmas vacation, she gave everybody 41 book reports. Ho, ho, ho. December 25th. Wake up. It's time to open your presents. I can't. I have to do my homework. After Christmas, everybody turned in a big pile of book reports. Ha, ha, ha. And then something terrible happened. Crash. Help! Miss Ribble was buried in a mountain of book reports. She's most sincerely dead. No, she's not. We can rebuild her, Doctor. We can make her faster than she was. We can make her better than she was. Faster, stronger, eviler. Bionic leg, bionic hair, bionic arm, operating table, surgeon. When Miss Ribble got out of the hospital, she had bionic powers. I will take over the world. Ha ha ha. So she made an evil costume. Snip, snip. Her bionic beehive hairdo opened up to reveal an evil wedgie Roboclaw. Ouchies, innocent bystander. Nobody can stop me now. Help! Wedgie Woman is in the teacher's lounge. She just drank all the coffee. Now she's giving the gym teacher a killer wedgie. Oh, the horror! She better make fresh pot, principal. This looks like a job for Captain Underpants. Crash. What's the problem, bub? Help! It's Wedgie Woman. So Captain Underpants got into a big fight with Wedgie Woman. She tried to give him a wedgie, but Captain Underpants was faster than a speeding waistband. Zip! More powerful than boxer shorts. Ouch! Pow! And able to leap tall buildings without getting a wedgie. Tra-la-la, rats. So Wedgie Woman went to the store to buy some spray starch. New spray starch. Warning, do not spray this on your underwear or you'll be sorry. Starch is the enemy of underwear. Wedgie Woman sprayed. Got you! Hey! Sprayed starch. Oh no, my underpants is all stiff and uncomfortable. Rats. Captain Underpants tried to push the buttons on his utility waistband, but they were broke. He was powerless. I'm doomed. Wedgie Woman gave Captain Underpants a big wedgie, and then she hung him from a pole. Rat. Nobody can stop me now. Soon some kids came by. Captain Underpants needs our help. So they threw him a rope. Catch! Then they pulled real hard and let go. Boing! Splash! Swimming pool. The kids poured fabric softener in the pool. Fabric softener, swimming pool. Suddenly the starch got washed away. Hooray! My underpants is soft and cottony once again. Hallelujah! Thanks, kids. No problemo. Soon Captain Underpants found Wedgie Woman. Remember him? Remember me? Get him, Roboclaw. He flew up. It's wedgie time. It's wedgie time. And looped around. The Roboclaw reached for underwear, but it grabbed the wrong pair. Owie, owie. It's off to jail with you. Aw, man. Tra-la-la. Hooray! The end. Notice, any similarities to actual persons, living or dead, is very, very unfortunate. Treehouse Comics, Inc. Chapter 5, The Wrath of Miss Ribble. When Miss Ribble read the comic book that George and Harold made, she was furious. Boys, she yelled, you just earned yourself a one-way ticket to the principal's office. But all we did was use our imaginations, said George. You're not allowed to do that in this school, said Miss Ribble. Did you read chapter 1? George and Harold gathered their things, and soon they were sitting in the office outside Mr. Krupp's door. Mr. Krupp is on the phone, said the school secretary, Miss Anthrope. Why don't you make yourself useful and copy the Friday memo for me? You can pass them out to all the classrooms for me while I go to lunch. Aw, man, said George. "Quit your whining, Buster," shouted Miss Anthrope. "I want this done by the time I get back, or you'll both be sorry." Miss Anthrope grabbed her coat and stomped out the door. George and Harold looked at the Friday memo. It was a weekly newsletter that told all about the events of the upcoming week. "Hey," said George, "Miss Anthrope's computer's still on. You want to make a few changes to this newsletter?" "Why not?" said Harold. "Jerome Hortwood's Elementary School Friday memo. Next week's news. Monday. Band practice canceled. No practice today due to asbestos removal in gymnasium. Tuesday. School Spirit Day. Show your school spirit by wearing the school colors, gray and dark gray. Ooh. Wednesday. Cheerleader tryouts today. Anyone wishing to join the cheerleading squad must do all of the following. Meet in the gym at 1. Meet in the gym after school. 2. Have the school cheer memorized. 3. Don't forget to wear gym shoes. Thursday. Football practice rescheduled. All football players report to soccer field for early practice today only. Pep rally at 3:15 in the gym. Friday. Yearbook photos taken today. Please dress appropriately. Anyone caught making funny faces will receive a detention. What's wrong with funny faces, huh? Friday memo. Next week's news. Monday. School canceled. No classes today due to lack of interest. Tuesday. National Wear Your Pajamas to School and Pick Your Nose Day. Show your care by wearing your pajamas to school and picking your nose. Wednesday. Cheerleader tryouts today. And anyone wishing to do the following, anyone wishing to join the cheerleading squad must do all of the following. 1. Eat 10 cloves of raw garlic. 2. Draw a mustache on your face with permanent markers. 3. Tape a 3-day-old egg salad sandwich to your head. Thursday. Football practice rescheduled. All football players report to teacher's lounge for early practice. Food fight at 12:15 in the lunchroom. Friday. Yearbook photos taken today. Please wear bumblebee costumes. Also, whoever makes the funniest face wins a free pizza party for their class. So George and Harold typed up their own version of the Jerome Hortwood's Elementary School Friday memo. Then they ran off copies for all the students to school. Chapter 6. The Retirement Card. George and Harold were gathering their new and improved Friday memo copies in the small piles when Mr. Krupp came into the office. "Hey," Mr. Krupp shouted, "what are you two troublemakers doing in here? Miss Anthrope told us to pass the Friday memo out to all the classrooms," said George innocently. "Well, make it snappy," yelled Mr. Krupp. Suddenly, Harold got a sneaky idea. He took out the blank piece of construction paper that Miss Ribble had given him earlier. "Hey, Mr. Krupp," said Harold, "will you sign this retirement card for our teacher?" Mr. Krupp grabbed the card from Harold and eyed it suspiciously. "This card is blank," Mr. Krupp growled. "I know," said Harold. "Our class is going to decorate it later. We wanted you to be the first to sign it." "Well, all right then," said Mr. Krupp. He opened the card and quickly scribbled, "Sign Mr. Krupp," on the inside. Then he stormed out of the office. Mindless conformity. It's cool, it's fun. Be just like everybody else. Individuality causes pain. What are you gonna do with that? Asked George. You'll see, said Harold, smiling. Chapter 7, Reverse Psychology. George and Harold passed out the Friday memo and made it back to their classroom just in time for Miss Ribble's retirement party. George quickly changed the letters around on the sign outside the door, while Harold wrote a special reading on Mr. Crup's card and stuffed it into an envelope. Draw. Right. Miss Ribble really needs a breath mint. Hey, Bubs! Shouted Mr. Crupp as he stormed down the hall. What do you think? What do you kids think you're doing? We're going to Miss Ribble's retirement party, said George. That's what you think, smart guy, said Mr. Crupp. Miss Ribble showed me that comic book you boys made about her. And now I catch you changing the letters around on another sign. You boys ain't going to any party. You going straight to the detention room. Well, fine. Then we're not going said Harold. Then we're not gonna give Miss Ribble the card our class made for her. Mr. Crupp quickly swiped the card out of Harold's hand. Aha! He shouted. I'm going to make sure she gets this card. I'm going to give it to her myself. Swipe. George and Harold walked down the hallway toward the detention room. Wow, said George. That was pretty cool how you got Mr. Crupp to deliver that phony card for you. Yep, said Harold. I used reverse psychology on him. I gotta try that sometime, said Harold. By the way, what did you write on that card? You'll see, said Harold, smiling. Chapter 8, The Party. Miss Ribble's retirement party started off bad and just got worse. First, Miss Ribble forced the class to sing a corny song to her. Then, by the time she was done yelling at the boys for singing off-key, the chunky tofu ice cream was melted. Everyone had to eat it anyway. We Love Miss Ribble, written and arranged by Tara Ribble. We love Miss Ribble. Oh yes, we do. We don't love anyone as much as you. When you retire, we'll be blue. Oh, Miss Ribble, we love you. That's the song. Then the children handed in their happy retirement cards. Miss Ribble ripped several of the cards up because some of the children had mistakenly drawn polka dots on their butterflies. What's wrong with polka dots? One unfortunate boy had also drawn a happy smiling sunshine on his card, and he had to stand in the corner. What's wrong with happy smiling sunshines? Finally, Mr. Crupp stepped forward and handed Miss Ribble the card he had snatched from Harold's hand. I went through a lot of trouble to get this for you, said Miss Crupp gallantly. Miss Ribble tore the envelope open and read the card out loud. You're one hot mama, said Miss Ribble with a shocked look on her face. Ew, cried the children. She opened the card and read the inside. Will you marry me? Signed Mr. Crupp. Ew, cried the children. The teachers gasped. Then the room grew silent. Mr. Crupp glared over at Mr. Crupp, who had turned bright red and began sweating profusely. He tried to speak. He tried to tell her it was all a big mistake. He tried to say something, but all that came out was bubba bubba baba hubba hubba wah wah. Congratulations, said Mr. Crupp as he patted Mr. Crupp's sweaty, shivering shoulder. Yes, congratulations, shouted Miss Anthrope. This will be the best wedding in the whole world. We can have it here at the school a week from Saturday. I'll plan everything. You lovebirds don't have to worry about a thing. Great, thanks, said Miss Ribble, still looking quite angry and confused. Bubba, baba, hubba, hubba, wah, wah, said Mr. Crook. Chapter 9, Freaky Weeky. The following week at Jerome Hortwood's elementary school was definitely one of the weirdest ones they'd had in a while. For example, none of the kids showed up for school on Monday, but Mr. Cup didn't even seem to notice. "Hey, where is everybody today?" asked Mr. Directed. "Bubba, bubba, hubba, hubba, wah, wah," said Mr. Crook. On Tuesday, everybody did show up in their pajamas. "Why is everyone picking their noses?" asked Miss Fit. "Bubba, bubba, hubba, wah, wah, wah," said Mr. Crow. On Wednesday, for some reason, the whole school smelled like garlic and rotten egg salad sandwiches, especially some of the girls. "Boy," said Miss Guided, the styles today sure are getting bizarre." "Bubba, baba, hubba, hubba, wah, wah," said Mr. Crook. Thursday was without a doubt a complete and total disaster. "There's a food fight in the lunchroom," shouted Mr. Rustworthy, "and the football team is destroying the teacher's lounge." "Bubba, bubba, bubba, hubba, hubba, wah, wah," said Mr. Crook. Now nobody was sure what had happened on Friday. Apparently there was a mix-up with the dress code and the yearbook photos. "Our school pictures are ruined," shouted Miss Dakin. "Bubba, bubba, baba, hubba, hubba, wah, wah," said Mr. Krupp. Yes, it was a freaky week, all right. But the big wedding was only a day away, and things were about to get really freaky. Chapter 10, The Big Wedding. It was Saturday, the day of the big wedding. Miss Anthrop, true to her word, had taken she had transformed the gymnasium into a true to her word, had taken care of everything. In just 1 week, she had transformed the gymnasium to a beautiful wedding hall, complete with food, decorations, and even a 6-foot-tall ice sculpture. All of the children were dressed in their finest clothes. Harold even wore a tie. "Man," said George, "I can't believe we have to go to school on Saturday." "I know," said Harold. "Why couldn't they have this wedding during Monday's math test?" Correction, Monday's math test was never there. Soon the organist began to play. The Robbie walked down the aisle. He approached George and Harold and stopped to talk to the boys. "I've heard a lot about you two," said the Robbie, "and I don't want you boys playing any of your silly tricks again." "Silly Robbie," said George. "Tricks are for kids." Believe it or not, George and Harold had not planned any pranks for the wedding. They had no joy buzzers up their sleeves, no squirting flowers in their lapels, and no whoopee cushions on their chairs. They were on their best behavior. Nothing could go wrong today. In no time at all, Miss Ribble and Mr. Krupp were standing in front of the Robbie, looking quite ill. The Robbie asked Mr. Krupp if he would take Miss Ribble to be his lawfully wedded wife. "Bubba, baba, baba, hubba, 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 wah, wah," said Mr. Krupp. Then the Robbie asked Miss Ribble if she would take Mr. Krupp to be her husband. There was a long silence. Everyone leaned forward. Miss Ribble looked nervously from side to side. Then she shouted out at the top of her lungs, "No!" Miss Ribble turned to Mr. Crump and jabbed her finger into his shoulder. "Listen, Crump," she said, "I can't marry you." "Hooray! That's too bad," said Mr. Crump. "You're a mean, cruel, and vicious man," said Miss Ribble. "And I respect that. It's just what?" said Mr. Crump. "It's just your nose," said Miss Ribble. "You've got the most ridiculous nose. I've never seen anything quite like it. I couldn't marry somebody with such a silly nose." Mr. Crump got angry. "Well, fine," she said. He shouted. "I didn't want to marry you anyway. It was all George and Harold's fault. They tricked us." Suddenly everybody in the gymnasium turned and looked at George and Harold. "Time to go," said George. Chapter 11. The Refreshments. As George and Harold turned to leave the gymnasium, they heard the loud thumps of cleated wedding boots stomping down the aisle toward them. "I'm gonna grind those kids into head cheese," screamed Miss Ribble as she lunged for the two boys. George and Harold screamed and ran to the back of the room near the refreshments. There they hid behind two large wooden pillars. Miss Ribble approached the pillars and grasped them with her mighty hands. With a horrible roar, she pushed the right pillar over. It landed on the back of the luncheon table, causing the front of the table to flip high into the air. Unfortunately, this sent all the food flying into the crowd. Crash! Ah! The creamy candied carrots clobbered the kindergartners. The fatty fried fish fritters flipped onto the first graders. The sweet and sour spaghetti squash splattered the second graders. 3,000 thawing thimbleberries studded the third graders. 500 frosted fudgy fruitcakes flogged the fourth graders, and 55 fistfuls of French fried frankfurters flattened the fifth graders. By now, you're probably worried that the wedding guests had nothing to drink with their lovely appetizers. Well, rest assured, the second pillar took care of that. Miss Ribble pushed the left pillar into the fresh fruit display, causing it to topple over, sending two large watermelons crashing down into two oversized punch bowls. This created two enormous splashes of tropical fruit-flavored punch, which rained down upon the wedding guests like a torrential downpour. Now, no wedding is complete without a wedding cake, and when Miss Ribble kicked the ice sculpture over, the resulting crash sent the beautiful double-decker cake flipping high into the air right over Miss Ribble's head. "I've got you now," screamed Miss Ribble as she grabbed George and Harold by their neckties. Splat! George and Harold undid their ties and ran out the gymnasium screaming. "Man," cried Harold, "I thought we were dead meat. That's what we get for going to school on Saturday." Chapter 12. Ribble's Revenge. As you might imagine, George and Harold were nervous about going to class on Monday, but for some strange reason, Miss Ribble seemed happy to see them. "Good morning, boys," Miss Ribble chirped with a giant evil to the group. "Come here. I've got something to show you." "Uh-oh," said George. "She's smiling. That can't be a good sign." George and Harold cautiously approached Miss Ribble's desk. "I took the liberty of adjusting your grades last weekend," said Miss Ribble. "You'll be happy to know that all your grades have just dropped from B's and C's to F's and G's. Grades. Oh no, George gasped. Not F's and G's. Hey, what's a G? It's the only grade lower than an F, said Miss Ribble. There's no such grade as a G, said Harold. There is now, Bob. Looks like, said Miss Ribble, looks like you're going to flunk the 4th grade. Won't that be fun? No way, said George. That's not fair. Life ain't fair, said Miss Ribble. Get used to it. Chapter 13, A Bad Idea. That afternoon, George and Harold sat in their treehouse, feeling rather sorry for themselves. You can't get away with that, said George. We've got to tell somebody about this. Nobody's going to believe us, said Harold. Well, there is one thing we can do, said George. He opened the drawer, went through to their drawing table, and searched through the pennies, paper clips, dried spitballs, and rubber bands. Then he pulled out a dusty plastic ring with some gum stuck on it. It was the 3D hypno ring. Oh no, said Harold. I thought we threw away that thing. We just threw the instructions away, said George. But I remember how it works. Do you remember what happened the last time we used it? Asked Harold. Yeah, said George, but we were fooling around last time. This time we'll be serious. We won't make any mistake. All we have to do is hypnotize her into changing our grades back to normal. That's all. Oh no, said Harold. It sounds like a bad idea to me. Worse than flunking the 4th grade? Asked George. Good point. Chapter 14, Return of the 3D Hypno Ring. Next day at school, George and Harold stayed behind while the rest of the class went outside for recess. What are you punks still doing here? Asked Miss Ribble. I'm surprised they even have recess, said George nervously. We wanted to show you this really cool ring. Yeah, said Harold. If you look closely at it, you can see a funny picture. Well, hold it still, said Miss Ribble as she stared at the ring intently. I have to move it back and forth, said George, but you won't be able to see the picture. Miss Ribble's eyes followed the ring back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You are getting sleepy, said George. Very sleepy, said Harold. Miss Ribble yawned. Her eyes began to droop. I'm so sleepy, she said as she slowly closed her eyes. In a moment, said George, I will snap my fingers, then you will be hypnotized. So sleepy, mumbled Miss Ribble. Snap! Now you must listen Chapter 14.5. We interrupt this chapter to bring you this important message. Hello, this is Chim Chim Diaper Brains. This is Ingrid Ashley reporting for Eyewitness News. We have a late-breaking story about a tragic incident that is now occurring in the Pacific Northwest. Police have just closed down the Little Wise Guy Novelty Company in Walla Walla, Washington. Apparently, this company has been selling very dangerous hypno rings, and we now take you live via satellite to our reporter Bugger Stinker Squirt. Lady Sorrow with the latest developments. Eyewitness before news. Thanks, Chim Chim, said Larry. Reports have poured in from all across the country concerning children who have used a 3D hypno ring on their friends and family with disastrous results. But the most shocking revelation is the effect that those rings seem to have on women. Apparently, when the ring is used to hypnotize a woman, a, a mental blunder occurs, causing the woman to do the opposite of what she's being hypnotized to do. Doctors don't know what the ring causes women to have an opposite reaction, but they are very concerned. If you or someone you love has purchased a 3D hypno ring, throw it away at once. And whatever you do, please don't use it on a woman. Chapter 14 through 3 and 3/4. We now return to our regularly scheduled chapter, already in progress. And when we snap our fingers, George continued, you will change our grades back to normal. Yeah, said Harold, and you won't do anything crazy like turn into Wedgie Woman. And you won't try to destroy Captain Underpants, said George, or take over the world either. Right, said Harold, you'll just change our grades, and that's it. Snap! Stop! George and Harold looked nervously at each other. Well, said George, I think that covers everything. Yep, said Harold, we shouldn't have any more problems from Miss Ribble. So the boys snapped their fingers. Snap! Stop! Chapter 15, Bad Hair Night. At night, George and Harold camped out in George's treehouse. "I have to drive your mother to work early tomorrow morning," said George's dad, "so you boys are responsible for getting yourselves to school on time." "Okay, Pop," said George. "Be there bright and early, Mr. Beard," said Harold. It had been a tough day for George and Harold, and now it was time to relax. When George rolled out the sleeping bags while Harold unpacked a box of chocolate donuts, 4 cans of orange cream soda, and a big bowl of barbecue potato chips. Believe it or not, there's even a cool Japanese monster movie playing on TV. "You know," said George, "life doesn't get any better than this." "Yep," said Harold, "but do you think the hypno ring actually worked with Miss Ribble? She looked a little weird when she came out of her trance." She was probably just sleepy. Teachers have very stressful jobs, you know. I wonder why," said Harold. After the movie, George and Harold brushed the crumbs out of their sleeping bags and got ready for bed. "Let's sleep in our school clothes tonight," said George. "That way we don't have to wake up early to get dressed." "Good idea," said Harold. So George turned out the light, and soon the two boys were drifting off to sleep. And after a few minutes, Harold sat up quietly and looked around. Hey, he whispered. "What's that noise?" "I didn't hear anything," said George. "They listen closely." "Shh," said Harold. "There it is again." George heard it this time. He reached over and opened the treehouse door a crack. All they could hear was the sound of crickets chirping in the night. George opened the door wider, and the boys peeked down. "Ugh!" roared an evil-looking woman dressed in tight purple linen and a mangy-looking fake fur boa. George and Harold screamed in horror. The snarling woman climbed from the ladder into the treehouse. George and Harold recognized her immediately in the moonlight. "Miss Ribble," George gasped. "What a lovely outfit you have on." "Who's Miss Ribble?" the angry lady growled. "My name is Wedgie Woman." George and Harold looked at each other and swallowed hard. I understand that you boys have information about Captain Underpants," said Wedgie Woman. "What makes you say that?" asked Harold. "I read your comic books," said the evil villain. "You boys know his strengths, his weaknesses, and I bet you even know his secret identity." "No way," said George. "Captain Underpants isn't real. He's just a cartoon." "We'll see about that," Wedgie Woman scoffed. Wedgie Woman grasped George and Harold's arms. What do we do now?" cried Harold. "We can take her," said George. "It's not like she has superpowers or anything." Chapter 16. Who's afraid of the big bad beehive? The struggle that followed may someday be remembered as the single most unlikely thing that ever happened in the history of the world. First, George pulled his arm out of Wedgie Woman's grasp. Then Harold squirmed away too. And when Wedgie Woman grasped and lunged after them, George crashed down into a ball behind Wedgie Woman's feet. All it took was a simple nudge from Harold to send the ferocious female toppling backward right into the wall. Clunk! The bookshelf above Wedgie Woman's head shook wildly, causing a strange-looking juice carton to topple over. Suddenly, a stream of of um uh, glowing green juice poured out of the carton directly into the tightly woven beehive of hair atop Wedgie Woman's head. "No!" said Harold as he grabbed the juice carton. "This is the juice we got from that spaceship back in our third book." "You mean the one with the annoyingly long title?" asked George. "Yeah," said Harold. "This is extra strength superpowered juice, and a whole bunch of it got in her hair." "Don't worry," said George. "None of it got in her mouth. What's the worst that could happen? Her hairstyle would have superpowers?" "Well," said Harold, "I guess you're right. That is pretty stupid, especially for one of our stories. It's pretty funny, though." Suddenly, two coiled arms of twisting hair shot out of Wedgie Woman's head and grabbed their underwear, yanking them high into the air. "No," said George, "this isn't as funny as I thought it would be." In Chapter 17, all tied up. The Wedgie Woman brought George and Harold back to her house and tied the boys tightly to 2 chairs. "Tell me the secret identity of Captain Underpants," screamed Wedgie Woman. "No way," said Harold. Said Wedgie Woman. "You want to do this the hard way? No problem." Wedgie Woman's hair began uncoiling itself. When several twisted locks of hair stretched out into the living room and started taking apart the television, the computer, and the Thigh Master. Other tangled coins reached into the kitchen and began dismantling the dishwasher, the toaster oven, and a Ronco food dehydrator. "What are you doing?" asked Harold. "If you want to make robots," said Wedgie Woman, you gotta break a few small appliances. Menace Teacher of the Year Award. Hey, what's this? George and Harold watched impatiently while Wedgie Woman's hair assembled thousands of assorted screws, bolts, wires, gears, cat-hole tubes, and computer chips. Soon, two small robots began taking shape. I didn't know Miss Ribble was smart enough to make robots, said Harold. Me neither, said George. I think some of that extra strength superpower juice must have soaked into her brain. The next morning, Wedgie Woman completed her robots, which she named Ribble, George, and the Hero 2000. You know, said Harold, something about those robots seems a little familiar. Yeah, said George. They look kind of like us, only not as dashingly handsome. Wedgie Woman opened the robot's chest plates and inserted a can of spray starch into each one. Then she sealed the chest plates, patted each robot on the head, and sent them both off to school. Captain Underpants doesn't stand a chance now, Wedgie Woman laughed. Wait a minute, said Harold. How are those two robots going to stop Captain Underpants? All they have to do is wait and listen, said Wedgie Woman. And as soon as they hear the words tra-la-la, it'll all be over. Chapter 18, Robo, George, and the Hero 2000. Boys and girls, said Mr. Krupps to the fourth graders. Your teacher, Miss Ribble, didn't come to school today. Hooray! Shouted the children. Settle down, Mr. Krupps shouted. You're still going to have your classes. Aw, man, moaned the children. But you're going to have a substitute teacher, said Miss Krupp. Hooray! Shouted the children. And it's going to be me, said Miss Krupp. Aw, man, moaned the children. The whole day was pretty much like a normal day, except for one thing. Mr. Krupp couldn't understand why George and Harold were so well behaved. They didn't make funny noises during science class. They didn't stick crayons in up their noses during art class, and they didn't draw comic books during math class. In fact, they even walked past a sign without changing the letters around. Mr. Krupp was stunned. All right, you two, Mr. Krupp shouted. I know you're up to something, so you better stop being so good. You're gonna be in big trouble. Today's lunch: genetically modified meat-flavored beef with extra bovine growth hormones? But Robo George and the Hero 2000 kept right on behaving. The only time they did something wrong was even remotely wrong was during recess. Everyone was playing kickball, and when it was the Hero 2000's turn to kick the ball, he kicked it pretty darn hard. Kabling! The kickball tore right through the top of page 101, this page, and out the other side as it sailed toward the outer regions of Earth's atmosphere. Soon it broke free of our planet's gravitational pull and began heading straight toward the planet Uranus. Aha! Shouted Mr. Crow. He pulled out the official school rule book and read rule number 411 out loud. It is against the rules to kick school property into outer space. You're in trouble now, bub. Hey, look, it's the same words, Mister, and normal couldn't. The normal couldn't. The Hero 2000 ignored Mr. Crook and began running around the base. Hey, I'm talking to you, Hutchins, Mr. Crook shouted. He pointed at the Harold 2000 and snapped his fingers. Snap! Snap! Big book o' rules. Suddenly, Mr. Crook began to change. A silly-looking smile stretched across his face, and he stood before the fourth graders looking quite heroic. Quickly, he turned and ran back into the school. In Chapter 19, Tra-la-lunatics! Several minutes later, Captain Underpants flew out of Mr. Crook's office window. As the hero zipped across the sky, he let out a triumphant tra-la-la. When Ribble, George, and the Harold 2000 heard the words tra-la-la, they immediately stopped playing cakeball. Suddenly, their arms began to extend, and their legs stretched toward the sky. Tra-la-la! Strange secret compartments in their ever-growing torsos opened up, revealing advanced aviation technology. Steel panels on their faces and bodies expanded wildly as their complex structures swelled to highly improbable proportions. Suddenly, flames shot out of their retro thrusters as their bodies rose into the air. In no time at all, two gigantic robots were flying in hot pursuit of the amazing Captain Underpants. George and Harold are really in big trouble now, said Melvin sneedily, as he read rule number 7734 of Mr. Crook's official school rule book out loud. It is against the rules for students to transform into giant flying robots during afternoon recess. The real George and Harold, however, had more in their minds at that moment than a few broken rules. They watched the action unfold on a big screen television that Wedgie Woman's horrible hair had built by combining the spare parts of a fish tank and an electric toothbrush. The colossal robots surrounded Captain Underpants, but surprisingly, the waistband warrior looked happy to see him. George, Harold, said Captain Underpants. My, how you boys have grown. I didn't know you can fly. That's great. Now you can help me fight for truth, justice, and all that is pre-shrunken cottony. But the gigantic robots didn't respond. Instead, they hovered close to Captain Underpants as their steel chest plates opened up. Suddenly, two extendable robot arms reached out and began showering Captain Underpants with liquid spray starch. What are you doing? Cried Captain Underpants. That's spray starch. It's the only thing in the world that can take away my superpowers. The waistband warrior screamed in horror as he began falling through the sky. Robo-George quickly swooped down, grabbed the helpless hero, and hung him by his waistband on a tall pole high above the city streets. Chapter 20. You asked for it. Hooray! Said Wedgie Woman as she turned off her new TV. My plan worked. Now it's time to take over the world. But what about us? Asked Harold. Don't worry. I've got a big surprise for you two. She took her heavy battle axe and tied it up with a rope. Then she leaned the axe toward George and Harold and lit a candle under the rope. When the flame burns through the rope, said Wedgie Woman, all your problems will be over. At the point, not really, said George. Don't worry, laughed Wedgie Woman. You'll see soon enough. Wedgie Woman laughed a horrible laugh. Then she dashed out the door to take on the world. George and Harold watched as the flame began burning through the rope. They cringed as the impending doom of the axe blade came closer and closer. Well, it looks like this is the end. Maybe not. Maybe the blade will fall and strike through the ropes and not harm us at all. I doubt it, said George. That kind of thing only happens in really lame adventure stories. Suddenly, the blade fell and sliced through the ropes, not harming George or Harold at all. The two boys looked at each other and decided it was best not to comment on the situation. Fuck. Chapter 21. The Ruthless Revenge of the Wicked Wedgie Woman. Wedgie Woman headed up to the center of town to meet up with Ribble, George, and the Hero 2000. Well done, my precious robots, said Wedgie Woman affectionately. What's all this then? Said a policeman who just arrived on the scene. Nothing, officer, said Wedgie Woman. Just the beginning of my total world domination, said the cop. Of my total world domination. Oh, okay, said the cop. Hey, wait a minute. But before the police officer could voice his objections, a twisted strand of Wedgie Woman's head shot out and grabbed the cop by the back of his underwear. The colossal Hero 2000 lifted the officer and hung him from the stop sign. Owie, wowie, cried the cop. Soon more police officers headed to the scene, but they all met with the same terrible fate as the first policeman. For long, every cop in the city was hanging from a street sign. Call the National Guard, screamed the chief of police. Call the Army, call the Marines, call a hairstylist. Soon, the armed forces arrived with a whole fleet of tanks and helicopters, but everybody was afraid to shoot. Wedgie Woman was just too quick. The giant robot stomped around the city as Wedgie Woman barked out her command. Everyone on Earth must obey me, cried the Wicked Wedgie Woman. If anybody refuses, they'll get the wedge. If anybody tries to stop me, it's wedgie time. Bow down to me, or welcome to Wedgieville. Soon, George and Harold arrived at the scene. They hid in some bushes and watched the terror unfold. We've got to rescue Captain Underpants, whispered George. He's the only one who can save the world. But how? Whispered Harold. He's got no superpowers left. Sure he does, said George. Starch doesn't take away his superpowers. He just thinks it does. We've got to change his mind. I sure hope we can, said Harold. Chapter 22. They can't. George and Harold ran to the pole where the heartbroken hero was hanging. Hey, Captain Underpants, said Harold. You've got to come down from there and save the city. Can't, whined the waistband warrior. Need fabric softener. No, you don't need fabric softener, said George sternly. That was just a dumb joke in one of our comics. But you don't understand, said Captain Underpants. Starch is the enemy of underwear. Only fabric softener can save me. Rats, said Harold in frustration. Hey, George, are there any stores around here? Yeah, said George. A new one just opened down on Oak Street. Then let's go buy some fabric softener. Said Harold, it'll be easier than trying to reason with the guy. How's that going to help? Asked George. It's all in his mind, Harold explains. If he believes that fabric softener will save him, then probably will. I think it's called the placenta effect. George and Harold ran to Oak Street. What's the name of that store? Asked Harold. Can't remember, said George. I think it's called everything but except fabric softener. Everything except fabric softener. The store for all your non-fabric softening needs. Sale, open 24 hours. Aw, man, said George. Good news, said Harold. Listen, said George, we've got to make another comic book. Now, asked Harold. "It's our only hope." No, said George. "The fate of the entire planet is in our hands." So the two boys brought some paper and a few pencils and got down to work. 22 minutes later, George and Harold had created an all-new Captain Underpants adventure. They ran to the pole where Captain Underpants was hanging and tossed their comic book up to him. "This is no time to be reading comics," said Captain Underpants. "Just read it, Bob," said Harold. "Yeah," said George, "you might learn something." Chapter 23, The Origin of Captain Underpants, The True Untold Story, by George Beard and Harold Hutchins. The Origin of Captain Underpants, The True Untold Story, by G. Beard and H. Hutchins. A far time ago in a galaxy long, long away. Actually, it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. There was a planet called Underpants World. Underpants World was a peaceful planet where everybody wore only underwear. Ha ha, I can see your underwear. I can see yours too. Ha ha. Hey, what are you doing under there? Underwear. Ha ha, you said underwear. Ha ha. Everybody liked wearing underwear so much that they never got into fights and didn't have no wars either. It was cool. But one day, all of that happiness ended abruptly. Bad guys. WW Starship Enterprise. The Wedgie Warlords had arrived. Reader screen. "Hey boss, let's spray that planet with starch." WWWWW. Okay, I hate those guys. The good people of Underpants World got scared. They ran to their leader, Big Daddy Long Johns. "Help us, Big Daddy Long Johns." "Okay. Don't worry, I have a magic amulet that will protect us from starch. Yippee!" But he accidentally dropped the magic amulet. Oops! It fell into the mouth of his newborn son, little baby Underpants. Gulp. "Oh no, he swallowed it. We're doomed." Just then the Wedgie Warlord sprayed starch on Underpants World. Big Daddy and his lovely wife, Princess Pantyhose, knew that their planet was a goner, so they decided to save their baby. Burp. So they stretched his underwear real far, stretch, and then they let go and shot him into space. Whee! Zing. Be good. Don't pick your nose. Little baby Underpants sailed through space as his home planet crumbled behind him. Aw, man. Soon little baby Underpants fell to Earth. Bonk. Welcome to Earth. Little baby got adopted by some old guys. My, he's so cute, let's adopt him. Okay. They named him Captain after their favorite cereal. Hi, Captain. Hi. Capt Crunt. But as the years went by, Captain became very sad. For some strange reason, he never ever seemed to fit in. Why do I feel so different? Then one night, he had a dream. Z. He saw his old planet and his other parents. "Hi, son, how's it going?" "Son, you aren't like other people. You are a superhero guy. Also, you have a magic amulet inside you. It will protect you from the evils of starch. All you have to do is say these words: I summon the power of Underpants World, and you will overcome the powers of starch." Okay, so Captain woke up and became a cool superhero guy, and he never had to be scared of starch no more, even if Wedgie Woman's robot sprayed him with it, because all he had to do is say, "I summon the power of Underpants World," and he would be free. Well, what are you waiting for? Just say the words. Treehouse Comics, Chapter 24, The Placenta Effect. "Wow," said Captain Underpants, "didn't realize that I had the power within me all along to overcome the evils of starch." "Just say the words," shouted George and Harold. Okay, said Captain Underpants. I think it's a great metaphor just say the words. I'll skip this. Said Captain Underpants, you kids have no feel for dramatic tension. Then he cleared his throat and spoke in a powerful voice. I summon the power of Underpanty World. Suddenly Captain Underpants rose triumphantly in the air. He was free at last. When the gigantic robots saw that Captain Underpants had escaped, the Hero 2000 launched its rocket arms at our hero. Captain Underpants grabbed the giant robo arms and swung them around toward his foes. These might come in handy. Chapter 25, the incredibly graphic violence chapter in Flip-O-Rama, trademark. Roughing Up Robo George. Flip-O-Rama 2, horribly hurt in the Hero 2000. And Flip-O-Rama 3, let's put our heads together. Flip-O-Rama 4, the Super Smashy Cyber Slam. Dun 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 dun. Hey, get on with the book. Alright, chapter 26, Reverse Psychology 2. The giant robots were defeated, but the battle was not over yet. Hero ran back to their tree house to grab the 3D hypno ring, while George ran back to everything except fabric softener for more supplies. Soon George returned to the center of town carrying a big cardboard box filled with spray cans. What are you doing with that? Who asked Harold, who had just arrived with the 3D hypno ring. I'm taking this extra spray starch to someplace where Wedgie Woman won't be able to find it, George shouted rather loudly. Extra strength spray starch, cried the Wicked Wedgie Woman. That's just what I need. Her winning hair lashed out at George, stopping him dead in his tracks. Then the 9 twisting braids each grabbed a can from the box and began spraying them at Captain Underpants. Oh no! But then here rimmed a huge cloud of mist filled the air, covering everything in sight and making these 2 pages incredibly easy to draw. When the cloud finally lifted, all of Wedgie Woman's hair was gone. In fact, all of everybody's hair was gone. Except Captain Underpants, because he already had no hair. See, George explained, there was no spray starch in this box. This box was just a cleverly disguised carton of hair remover. I used reverse psychology on her. Ugh, screamed Harold as he clutched his bald head. My mom's gonna lay hard-boiled eggs when she sees me. Relax, said George. Our hair will grow back. That's easy for you to say, said George. Your hair was only half an inch long. Hair remover, 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 hair remover. Since there's 9 cans, remember. Chapter 27, Reverse Psychology 3. Well, Wedgie Woman, said Captain Underpants, it's off to jail with you. Wait a second, said Harold. We'll take care of Wedgie Woman. You go back to school, put the clothes on, then wash your face. Yeah, Bub. Use plenty of water. We've got work to do. Okay, said Captain Underpants. So Captain Underpants did as he was told, and he transformed back to Crook. Now all they had to do was turn Wedgie Woman back into Miss Ribble too, but nicer. Okay, said Harold. Remember when we hypnotized Miss Ribble and she did the opposite of everything we wanted her to do? Yeah, said George. Well, we want to set things right, Hale continued. We're going to have to hypnotize her into the opposite of what we want. I'm way ahead of you. So the two boys once again hypnotized their teacher, only this time they used reverse psychology on her. Hence the name, reverse psychology, or I just like to call it reverse psychology 3, reverse psychology. From now on, said George, you will always be known as Wedgie Woman. You will keep all your superpowers too. You will not go back to teaching 4th grade. You will remember everything that happened in the last 2 weeks, said Harold. You will not change your grades back to normal, said George. You will not become the nicest teacher in the history of Jerome Hortwood's elementary school, said Harold. And you will not break fresh chocolate chip cookies for class every day, said George. George, said Harold sternly, stop goofing around. Can't help it, said George. You should never hypnotize anybody when you're hungry. Okay. Said Harold. Let's just snap our fingers and pray that this works. Snap. Chapter 28. To make a long story short, it did. Chapter 29. Better living through hypnosis. The next day, Miss Ribble entered the classroom looking a whole lot friendlier than usual. Boys and girls, said Miss Ribble, I have some good news for you. Hooray! Cried the children. It's time for English class, said Miss Ribble. Aw, man, moaned the children. Nay, said Miss Ribble. I've asked George and Harold to lead the class. Hooray! Cried the children. They're gonna teach us about creative writing. Aw, said Miss Ribble. Aw, man, moaned the children. By showing us how to make our own comic books, said Miss Ribble. Hooray! Cried the children. While they're doing that, said Miss Ribble, I'm going to pass out something for you all to work on. Aw, man, moaned the children. Homemade chocolate chip cookies, said Miss Ribble. Hooray! Cried the children. This is awesome, said Harold. But do you think it was the right thing for us to change her personality like we did? Sure, why not, said George. She's happier. She'll probably live longer. Wally's Big World. You're right, said Harold. I guess sometimes hypnosis is a pretty good thing. Then again, as we all know, sometimes it isn't. Were these cookies hard to make? No, dear, they were a snap. Snap! Oh no, screamed Harold. Here we go again, screamed George. Tra-la-la! Alright, so that's the end of the book. And if you want to learn how to make your own comics, go to planetpilkey.com. I'm learning too. I should really start going there.